Anyway, I will make a longer introduction later on, like a bit longer. Hello, premium seats available. And one economy. Still, but the thing is, mythology and philosophy of Agile, things that are like very important to me. With mythology, I mean all the myths that somehow arose around this movement that's like 20 years old, 20 something, maybe 30. And there's a lot of things said about Agile, what Agile is, what isn't, where should be applied and where shouldn't, what constitutes being Agile or living Agile or doing Agile, there's different things apparently. And really, to be honest, I felt for those as well when I started. I was a lousy Scrum Master, we'll get there. Not that good product owner, but just because I believed in all those things that were said and never questioned them. And philosophy, as I said to a few people before, sorry, it will not be that good for you right now. You see, right now when we talk about philosophers, it's like, okay, I want to change my life. You go to a modern day philosopher, and there it goes. It starts like a visit at the shrink. So, okay, what do you mean by I? What do you mean by want to change? Well, yeah, start talking about philosopher about change. That's like a guaranteed way to either kill this person or just fall asleep or run away. And then there's life. And yeah, philosophers start talking about life. You can imagine where this is going. It's not really good. And the ancient times, despite what we think, philosophy was extremely practical art. And if you went to this philosopher and said, I want to change my life, what you got in response was, get up earlier, or clean your bed, or whatever that was. But it's very practical advice. And this kind of practicality I want to retain here. A bit about me. You can see I'm a good thing for Photoshop, right? That's true. I do strategic consultancy, whatever that means, apparently. Used to be lousy Scrum Master, not a good product owner. Pretty decent project manager, but it's not a noble thing anyway. Right now, used to be developer. Right now, nobody will give me anything technical to do, which makes sense. I hate running, like jogging running. I hate it, and I do it almost every day, which says a bit about me. And very important thing: if anybody tells you that running is a way to lose weight, you know, that's 93 kilograms of of proof that it doesn't. And I run like 150 kilometers each month, which is a lot. I'm a petrol head. I have 15th car in 12 years right now, which is American, which is why I had to fly here instead of driving from Breslau, which is like a few-hour drive. But yeah, American car. I'm an extreme early riser, and I wake up at 4:25. I don't know if anybody here can beat that. Nobody ever did. That's a cool thing. And I live like a stoic philosophy. Reach out, here's my LinkedIn YouTube channel that I set up recently. Don't write it down yet. It will be again at the end. And right now, it might make no sense, because if you take no value from this and you think that this presentation sucks, which is okay, it might for you, then you just waste time right now. So, moving on. Raise your hand if your business is agile.
Business?
Yeah, the business that you're working in or so, or claims to be, or whatever, and you know that business. Okay. So is it? I can give you an example of a business that was agile. What is? A consulting company from UK doing tax optimization, you know, tax evasion actually, and they did like a proper agile transformation. It was really surprising, because they went from 4 months per average per IT project down to 2 months. It was like that, twice the job in half the time. The legend. And it did happen. Well, they did deliver way less software and so on, but it worked. And it cost them a lot. Just they had like 12 teams or so, but the amount of work, amount of consultancy, coaching involved, it was very expensive. And thus I did a consultancy there for a very different reason, not related to Agile. And I see, well, yeah, you're doing very cool thank you. Why you should be bragging about it? It's really cool. I said, nah, no, not really. We don't really see the benefits. I'm like, yeah, you know, it's a textbook. It's what you want. Half in the development time. And then I started talking with them and said, okay, so when you deliver this project, what happens then? Well, they say, well, we do 2 months of like a guarded, like a protected introduction. So yeah, we involve users and stakeholders in the process, as we always did. And then we just help them along the way, so that there's this hypercare period when you solve the major bugs that occur. There are always some bugs and so on. It takes about 2 months, and it took about 2 months previously. I say, well, yeah, okay, still it's an improvement. I say, well, you know, but there's this thing that we start the projects, which takes a bit of longer time. And what happened in this half a year per average, that's really amazing. It was like, okay, so there's day one. Somebody gets an idea, let's do the project. Right? Okay, and his boss said, set up a meeting. 2 weeks later, there's a meeting. Decision meeting whether we go into this project or not. Okay, we go into this project, set up a kickoff meeting. 2 weeks later. And we decide who's the sponsor and who will be responsible for what, and so on and so on and so on. You know, the Excel file, RACI, RACI tables, the thing you do in consulting companies. What do you do then? Meeting, 2 weeks later, and so on and so on. So it took them half a year just to kick off the project, to really start working on it, regardless whether this was this old bad waterfall or agile. And at a huge cost, they went down from 12 months to 10, which is something you don't really realize. You don't notice that. Over a year, 2 months of difference is nothing. It's not really tangible for humans. And I'm not saying they did a bad job here doing this. That was a brilliant idea and fantastic execution. That rarely happens. But what they should do at the very beginning was, well, let's send some executive consultants, which are people that say executives, they're idiots, in a way that they're happy for this. And say, well, yeah, you see those 6 months? You could do it in 1 month or 2, just focus and really get things moving. And nobody does that because why? Because Agile is for IT and software development, right? And then what actually happens is we get this huge waterfall of delivering value, which starts from, say, sales, and then there is some decision making, and then there is R&D, and then there is some prototyping, and then there is development, and then there is introduction, implementation, and there is support, and so on. And we get this huge stream of delivering value. We take this portion out. At a huge cost, we make it agile, and we're happy. And by association, apparently, the whole company suddenly is agile. There's no agile, no use of agile whatsoever in sales, which is possible. Sales works great with Kanban. I did that. I've seen that happening. It really works great. There is no usage, or say even the simplest of tools that Agile provides us, like daily stand-ups, or a single source of truth, which is backlog. Well, why not having backlog for marketing? So there's this one place and not 70 people coming and fighting with them. And not many companies do that. And it's especially funny, well, with small companies it's easier. It's like Agile is a natural way of working. But if you get a big company that transforms, that's what they do. They just take this one and then stick it back in. And they claim to everybody, their clients, marketing materials, and so on, yeah, we are agile. And it's as agile as, you know, there's this, you have this armory here, with this horse armor. I don't know if you see this in Graz. There's a huge armory. You should see that there is an armor for a horse there, 500 years old. That's worth 8 million euros. And as an armor, it's completely useless. It's like a beer can thing. Really, it's completely useless. But somebody thought it was a good idea to make this kind of armor. Yeah, you know, armor for the horse that weighs 40 kilograms. Armor for men weighs 60 easily. but that's just doing it. It's just faking in big companies. And that's the cost of this huge myth that Agile is meant for IT and software development. Well, yeah, that's where it started. You can see the thing that we all call Agile Manifesto is actually Agile Manifesto of software development. It is meant for software, it was meant for software, but if you remove software and change it into, say, service that you provide, whatever you call service, like delivering value, then suddenly it seems to work everywhere, and hardly anybody is doing that. That's funny, it's like servant leadership, you know, Southwestern does it for like, how much, 50 years now? Works great for them, gives them fantastic results. People love flying with Southwestern, people love working at Southwestern, and nobody else is doing that. For some weird reason. But that's just what we do. So, is your business agile still? Or just the development? Just food for thought. I'm not playing blame game here because that's natural. I did this as well many times. The second myth: how can you tell that you're agile? Well, if you know a company that is agile or claims to be, let's just focus down on the software development. That's fine because of what I just said. Well, there is some reason that you think so. Yes, there is some explanation. They are agile, or we are agile because of X. Now, don't reply loud because that might make you feel silly in a few moments. But just ask yourself this question and answer. Why do you think the company is agile? And to answer this question, I will use the tool popular from Shrek movie and psychiatry, which is onion. As you know, ogres are like an onion, and whole things that everything basically that's done in psychiatry, in psychology, is peeling off the onion. So let's start with the very root part of the onion. We are agile because we have Post-its and Jira. Yeah, Jira is fantastic for this. Jira is not even a good tool for Kanban, to be honest, because it doesn't allow to enforce WIP limits. You can throw as many as you like. Well, the column will lead up red, but you can add more anyway, regardless. But somehow there's this thing that if you use Jira or have 17,000 colors of yellow Post-its, then you are agile. And you have these tables, and that's kind of it. So, but you can go forward, and you can have some practices. And practices is just level 2 of the onion. And this would be Scrum, or Kanban, or some extreme programming stuff, like those things that we really just associate with Agile straight on. So if you're doing Scrum, then you're Agile. I actually saw a recruitment leaflet one day on some other conference in Poland, and it's literally said, we are Agile because we work in 2-week iterations and use Jira. That was and the people were, wow, they are Agile, let's go work for them. Okay. That's level 2. Level 3 would be principles. And these are, for instance, if we're doing Scrum, you set it for 10 minutes, you know? No. Yes.
Okay, I did it in the wrong direction. Sorry, my fault.
Yeah, that's continuous improvement. You need to fall off the bike to learn to write it. Well,
I think it was your 42 because it's the number of all questions, right?
Yeah. So, principles would be, if we are doing Scrum, do we really pay attention to finishing things within the iteration? Well, yeah, it is okay not to finish them. But do we think about it, why, or we just carry on? It will never be completed. The forecast, it's just a forecast, we don't care. We don't do things to make sure we actually close things within the iteration. For Kanban, that would be, do we really honor those WIP limits? Do we ever look at this cumulative flow diagram? Do we take some conclusions out of it? That's principles, and that's just level 3. Now, level 4 would be values. And the biggest one of those Yeah, there's transparency, which, well, Scrum is designed to ensure transparency. Well, just because Scrum is like a really smart risk management framework. But the core one here would be trust. And there is this thing about trust. If I ask you, do you trust me? No, of course, why would you? You have no reasons to trust me whatsoever. But do you distrust me?
No.
Yeah, that's the thing. There is this part between trust and distrust, which is this twilight zone, which is where we usually are. With other people, within teams, and so on and so on. And when trust begins is when we are not afraid to tell people in our team that we have some vulnerability, that we have some weakness, and we're not afraid that they will use it against us. That's the trust. And getting there, it's kind of a hard thing. Well, there was this session on social contracts, psychological contracts or something. Yeah, something along these lines. So there was the missing piece to that was you have to get the trust first. And getting there, essentially, there are those 5 dysfunctions of a team. If you get rid of them, you have the chance to get there. Like all of them, like the Lencioni pyramid of dysfunction. And there's the top level, which is mindset. And mindset is it is kind of like a Zen thing, to be honest. But the thing is, it's about unlearning stuff. So yeah, we know as people, as managers that do management for 20 or 30 or whatever the many years, we know that yeah, we should, because everybody taught us that we should ask every person what they do. And it's still popular to do daily stand-ups, going person by person, asking that 3 questions that are not in Scrum Guide anymore, but whatever, people still ask these 3 questions. What did you do? What will you do? What are the impediments, right? And that's the point. When you get the mindset, you don't ask these questions because you know that they're not relevant. It doesn't really matter who did what. You should go across the table, right to left, and okay, what do we need to do to finish this? What do we need to do to get this thing into testing? What do we need to do to get this thing into development? And so on and so on. But that's just the unlearning phase. Is anybody here on the mindset level? I had one person in my life that said so. I really congratulate them. It is really hard, and I really don't like the sugarcoat. I know it sucks for my business, but it is very hard to get there, and you might really not want to do this because the cost is really high. You imagine that like a paradigm shift, really. That what happens to your comfort zone, especially in higher level management, when you do things like that. It might not be worth it. Maybe they don't really want this in the first place, and it's good to ask this question: do we really want to get there? Because maybe we don't, and that's fine, as long as we're okay with this, and we are okay with getting a bit worse results of our business. But that's fine for everybody. And this is kind of important. Those things are very visible. Post-its, right? Yeah, rooms with tons of post-its. How many packs of post-its are there in the corner? Yeah, that's an Agile conference. You can tell.
512.
512.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a round number, so
yeah,
that makes sense. And the Jira and so on. Yeah, very visible. Practices. Yeah, you can see them. Principles. Well, you can see some of them on charts. Sometimes. Values, no. Values are invisible. Not to mention mindset. And here's the scary part. There's other part of this scale. And this mindset is really invaluable. What you can get with this is amazing. Think of Southwestern, they're airline. You cannot, it's hard to say they're agile. But due to their mindset, well, after 9/11, they were the only airline in the US that was still profitable. not to mention several few others that went bankrupt, and they were still in profit in that year, which was, well, that wasn't good year for US airlines. And with this, well, really, if you have the agile mindset, then you can run a good project and using PMI or Prince2. Why would you go and fiddle with Scrum, with masters and all the wizardry that is attached to it? There is no need. Well, funny thing, there are add-ons to PMI and Prince2, and I think to this third one that's used in Austria, I think. Third methodology, big one.
IPMP?
PMP? PMI?
PSDM?
No, there are some other. Well, so there are more. Okay. But still, there are add-ons created to cope with Agile, right? So that we can still use our PMI and be cool and so our project managers are not quitting, but do things the Agile way. Thing is, they are not needed. If you take at if you look at say Prince2, there all the mechanisms are there. You can do project with small iterations. You can stop it. You should stop it at a given moment, but people are just not doing it. That's the point. But all the mechanism of delivering proper agile project, delivering value really the best way possible are already there. You don't need this, but you need to have the mindset. And well, you can do really good waterfall using Jira, which is the reality of most software houses that I know. You can easily tell this by the number of scope changes along the way. Yeah, there are reviews. Yeah, there is stakeholder involvement. Yeah, client comes, and then you can see that project scope over half a year change of say 5% or so. How agile is that? How is it possible, really? Well, if you do Scrum or Kanban or whatever, and you really make sure that you deliver value and validate it, then how is it possible that there are no scope changes? But like people at the very idea of any project, any endeavor, have no idea what will happen along the way. Yeah, on last year I wanted to start writing a book. I wrote one once. Public speaking, you can see it wasn't very good. So it's a Sunday. I want to go to other parts of Breslau, do some photo shooting, and then come back and write. I have 4 hours set. I am so very agile. I only plan for 1 day. So what can possibly go wrong? It's Sunday. I am prepared. I have everything. I am so very agile that I only plan for half a day. Well, as I was returning home, I saw a hit and run with car and few others. So there's one car hit the other, and the guilty one started running away. So me and a few other drivers got into this Russian videos mode. Yeah, you know the dashcam videos from Russia and Poland. That's pretty spectacular. And we actually chased the guy on the streets of Breslau for a few kilometers. Stopped him, the guy was drunk, and then the fun started. Like police, second police, making statements, so on, so on. 5 hours. I had planned for half a day of working. What could have possibly gone wrong? And then you have this, could I plan it for half a year, writing this book? Sure. I had all the chapters lined out. I'm going to say, okay, 4 hours this Sunday, then this, and this, and this. Yeah, book will be finished by 7th of May. Because why not? And software houses often working in Scrum, having all those functions and so on, using Jira and so on, they have somehow magically they have no changes in scope, and they deliver within the planned timeline and within budget. Yeah, you know this triangle? That's weird. Well, I forgot to mention at the beginning, if you want to interrupt me, please do, and ask a question or challenge me. I might not be right, and I quite possibly am wrong on some things. That's okay. I want to learn as well. So, moving on. The third myth, is your agile agile? Okay, second question to help you, as opposed to set in stone. Okay. Yeah, you now know that you don't want to raise hand and answer. Yeah, that's learning. We'll get into learning very soon. So imagine that 300 years ago, you were to become a blacksmith. How would it look like? Well, at the age of say 7, 8, something like that, you would have been sent to forgery to be an aide. Just do the menial stuff. You would do that for 4 years or so. Then you would become apprentice. You could like touch the big hammer, and yeah, you could do something like make a nail. 4 or 5 years later, you became a journeyman. And 5, 10, 15 years later, if you were well connected politically, well, in the guild, you could become a master. Not very complicated manual skill of making horseshoes and armors and so on. And it took 25 years easily to become a master in it. But now we cannot afford it. We cannot afford to learn things that often, and we are not used to it. That's pretty scary, because evolutionary, for most of our existence as a species, things you did right after you were born and things you did when you were dying were not really that different. Where being a blacksmith 300 years ago, you would still use the same technology, maybe do something that looks a bit different because fashion changes, but, well, you did it the same way. And in this room, I can bet that in 5 years, nobody will do the same thing that we do now. Nobody, I can really bet, unless somebody is already retired. Yeah. To add to that, we live in a world of instant gratification. There was this famous marshmallow experiment. I will not go into that. I'm pretty sure you know this. But there's an instant gratification that I want a reward now. I want things to happen now and to happen fast. Or there's delayed gratification. Yeah, I can wait. I can appreciate the process of learning, of waiting, of growing. And the second one is proven scientifically. The second one is way, way, way more beneficial. Where it gets us, we can become certified or professional or whatever master of something in 2 days of course. I remember my first, I had 2 Scrum Master courses. First was CSM, which was, CSM is not standardized. Well, depends on the trainer, and mine wasn't that good, so to say. But well, I filled out some well, not very complicated test on the web, and then this thing came mailed to me saying that, well, Lukasz Olczysk, you are a certified Scrum Master. I said, yeah, cool. Now I know, right? Yeah, I did this course, so this was expected. Now I'm a Scrum Master. I know Scrum Master. And nobody kicked me in the, like, somebody should have pat me in the back of my head saying, well, you just started. You're not like 1% of the way of being a good Scrum Master. And as I said at the very beginning, I really sucked at it. Then I got the second PSM, which is a bit harder to fail, and that one was better, but I'm not judging, because that depends who is your CSM trainer. And then again, it was 2 days, and I was professional Scrum Master this time. So yeah, I kept adding letters on LinkedIn. Okay, why not? Then there was PSPO. Again, 2 days, I became professional Scrum Product Owner. Like 2 years later, I kind of noticed that to be a good product owner, you actually had to be a good businessman, which I'm not. I'm not a good businessman. I'm not a good networker. As some of you might have noticed, like I had lunch with some people that I didn't say a word to. I really suck at it. I'm not a good. I don't have a good personality, and you see that's a kind of tragic thing, because you need this kind of businessman, entrepreneur mindset to be a good product owner. And in companies that are transforming, who becomes product owners? Project managers or product managers, essentially career managers, people that never owned a business. And then they go to this course, and 2 days later they, well, are convinced that they already know what's what. They have years of experience as a manager. They have this certificate in their inbox. They have these extra letters in their LinkedIn. So apparently they must know things, right? Because that's what happens. Okay, so what happens during every learning process? I know this slide sucks. Yeah, I know. That's how it is. Bear with me. We start here. We get some mental model, like essentially downloaded. That's the 2 days. You get yeah, okay, so you do this, you do this, you do this. You start thinking in this new way, you know, because it's agile. You don't think about just fulfilling project criteria, but about meeting stakeholders' needs and business value and so on and so on. You get this mindset here. Based on this, and it's funnily, it's the same for becoming, say the mentioned guy working at the forge. I lost the word.
Blacksmith.
Blacksmith. Thank you. For becoming blacksmith, that's it. Well, this is iron, this is fire, and this is horseshoe. Well, that's the mindset. You want to transform this through this into this. You have decision-making rules. Okay, so this is how I prioritize. As a Scrum Master, I have a decision-making rule to kick out this director out of the room that wants to mess up with my team. And he should go to the product owner. Yeah, I create this set of rules based on which I make decisions. And it's the same for being a blacksmith. So I need to get this hammer and hit it from the right. That's the decision-making. So then I make a decision. Say I will prioritize things this way, or I will do this, I will do that, whatever. And then, or I will hit a horseshoe with a hammer from the right. Then I do the particular thing, and then there is a feedback. For instance, I hit the horseshoe too much, and now I have to do something another, and I make a decision that right now I hit it a bit like from the left. Or now I prioritize things a bit differently because they didn't meet stakeholder demands. Or as a developer, I test code more thoroughly, or read requirements more thoroughly, or just talk to product owner because he is available, because we're agile, and talk to them, and I get the better understanding of what's necessary. Easy, right? And we go like this. And you can see the missing element on the slide, right? Because this is called single loop learning. You start and then you fly in this loop. Say you do Scrum. You do Scrum within this loop. If you actually get to do the proper Scrum, because it's very easy to fake it. And not many companies really do Scrum, even though they say otherwise. But you just keep doing that. Whether it's being a blacksmith, or Scrum Master, product owner, or project manager, whoever. That's a single loop learning. You just do that. Well, the thing is to not to be left alone in the world, not to be overtaken by everybody. You have to add additional arrow to the slide, which is this. Based on the feedback, not only you make improved decision next time, which is easy, it's standard, that's what we do as humans. But you also update your mental model. And you might get to the point where hardly any company is getting, of thinking, well, why would we do potentially shippable increments every sprint? Why don't we deliver continuously? Why don't we deploy continuously? Why do we need, well, there's this role that's described, and we learned to have this role of a Scrum Master. By why? Maybe we don't need them. Well, there's a set of responsibilities. Well, maybe we could distribute. Do we really need? Well, and if everybody knows the thinking in the company, then we don't need their role whatsoever. But you need to start thinking about it first. Whether the Scrum is what we really want if we're doing it. Whether this doing management this way or another is what we really want. Or not. And for instance, that's what happens when you start helping your teams in Scrum using some practices from XP. And for some from XP, some from DevOps. And this is where the actual gain from Scrum, that they get out into this thinking, and the good team will really fast get beyond Scrum. It's a matter of 2-3 months. If the mindset is in the company and if they really get the support, because continuous delivery is a costly thing. If you don't have it, then the initial investment is very, very high. Not to mention continuous deployment, which is not always that easily possible for every business. That's just how it is. But it's good to just thinking, well, why are we doing things this way? Just because it's set in a Scrum guide? Or in David Anderson says we have to do this thing about Kanban to be working properly. Well, maybe not. Maybe we could run an experiment. Let's see. And then the team, the organization that works this way, it's a double loop learning, gets to the point where their way of working is tailored to their evolutionary position on the market, because no company is out of the box, well, except from McDonald's maybe. But aside from McDonald's, no other company is out of the box, which means that the processes and the way they work shouldn't be out of the box also. And we repeatedly do it, like people like me, and I also did this. That's fact. Yeah, you do Scrum, you do PMI, you do whatever. That's what you need, because that's what's being done. Because that's what I was taught to. Well, you know the story about the monkey and the ladder? Monkeys? 5 monkeys? Yeah, to those that don't know. There was a cage with 5 monkeys. They put in a ladder with a banana on top. And there was also a device that activated very cold shower once the monkey got halfway through the ladder to the banana. So, as you can imagine what happened, well, monkey, banana, it's an instinct. Up to the ladder. You get a shower. Try another time. Well, there's a learning process ongoing. New neural connections created, well, yet you don't want to get on the ladder. Soon enough, all monkeys know. What you do then? Swap out one of the monkeys for the new one. And the new monkey gets into the cage, sees a banana on the ladder. Come on. Before it gets the chance to climb on the ladder, it's getting beat up by the other monkeys. Doesn't know why, but after a few iterations, yeah, it's a BDCA, it gets to the conclusion that, yeah, there is a banana, okay, let it be. Apparently, that's not what we do here. We don't eat bananas. What you do then? Swap out second monkey, and the process repeats itself. At one point, in the cage, you have 5 monkeys that never ever tried climbing the ladder. Then you threw in 6th monkey. What happens? Instantly, it wants to get to the ladder and grab a banana. Well, instantly, it gets attacked by other monkeys. And here's the fun thing. This monkey has no idea what it's getting beat up. The other monkeys have no idea why they're beating it. But apparently, that's the way we do things in this cage, right? And here's the worst part of the experiment. It is really scary. You know, I looked around for quite a long time to find some scientific data on this experiment. I like to do that. Because there are many fake things on LinkedIn and so on, and this thing is faked. This experiment never happened. And the sad and brutal and really tragic thing is that we have no idea if monkeys would do that, but we know that humans would. Because that's what we do.
Actually, I know it as a scientific experiment with a name of it. From the 60s, it has a name of the professor at university. It could have been written in a little bit in fake manner, but I have read it with university, professor, date.
Maybe we can talk later, because I was really looking for a long time for it. So
in the first place, I found it with all this data. I wasn't researching. I knew the story as a social experiment.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
with people.
With people.
With people. The monkeys in case.
Okay,
about
I
culture
really
and rules.
we need to talk then because I really wanted to try to find for a
Look
good one.
valuable to
Heard about one with people that it's in the waiting group without of the day.
yeah, well, same case.
Okay.
With the sound that people getting
Yeah,
up
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
exactly. Yeah,
down.
yeah, this one.
Okay. And this is the reason why why when I became a project manager first, pre-agile times at the company, I did what other managers did. It was stupid what I did. I'm a bit ashamed of it now because, you know, perfect delivery of a project that made no sense. Yeah, but it was perfectly delivered because that's what project managers did. The same goes for Scrum. The same goes for consulting and for what I did as an agile consultant as well. Well, apparently we need to sell Scrum because it works, right? Well, does it always? Is it always the best, the way it is? Might be, or might be not. How do I know? I don't experiment with anything else. But it's easier. And we're humans, I want to say efficient, we're lazy. Again, evolutionary, we are designed to reserve energy. Because for most of the human history, up until maybe 100 years ago, most, like 99% of people lived in constant hunger. That's how it worked. Poverty and hunger, that's just how it was. So we haven't adjusted to that new mindset yet. That, well, we don't need to reserve energy. There are, if you want to break this, there are some pre-levels of getting there. So first there's a practice. And this is, it goes well with, if you think about paintings. Everybody can learn to paint. You can buy a book, Painting for Dummies or whatever. If you go through it and be serious about it and really dedicate time, you will be able to paint something. But then there's this thing that there are many painters like this. In Poland, right after the war, it was popular to get these small paintings that are called landschafts. I don't know if the same in Germany, in Austria. Like some villas, some very romantic. And they are really pathetic, they're really lousy, almost like mass-produced. Because they're produced, that's the point. With practice you produce. You don't create art, which is the second level, and which is when you do things differently. If you go to any gallery, you will see many paintings which are good. But there is something that in one painting that is done somewhat differently, and you don't know what, and it makes it beautiful. It works great with Michelangelo's monuments. Well, what's that?
Sculptures.
Sculptures. Thank you. You can see many sculptures in Bruges, for instance. There are many sculptures in the church, but there's one by Michelangelo. You look at it and you don't know why, but it's beautiful. But he broke some rules. He did things differently. And this is where you get to, yeah, whatever. This is where you get to art level. You start doing things differently. And with philosophy, you start really unlearning and just living it. I would like to have some example from Agile world of really living the philosophy. But I don't. Like, people like this were very, very cliche. Steve Jobs, yeah, he lived his philosophy. It was a bit awkward for many. Many people disagree with him, but that made him, he really lived it, and that made him who he was. That made him famous and rich and dying young. Well, same goes for musicians. For Jim Morrison, he did things differently, and he really embodied this crazy music of his, which led to his demise. Well, that might be a sad conclusion. But anyway, this is this level when you really start living this, and you really get to this point where in the company, people actually trust each other, like really. Not in this twilight zone of trusting people enough not to wishing them to die on fire, but like, you know, that really trust each other. Once you get there, it's easier. You get to this philosophy, and people actually, you can see people thinking and really reflecting on how to do things differently. And as we're getting to the end, I said some crude words about instant gratification. Yeah, it is bad. And the thing is that many industries, including I think many of people that work here, are designed to invoke, that are here, are designed to invoke instant gratification. Buy it, check the notification, get the bill, do it fast, get it easier, right? That's the instant gratification. So essentially, majority of business is engineered to provoke instant gratification. But I will give you this. Instant gratification at the end of this. That's just the tool that I use, I found hugely effective when working with teams. That's the question to ask at the retrospective or at the end of the day or whatever. If we could turn back the time and relive the last whatever, what would we do differently? No. Sorry?
I think nothing. I can imagine nothing because we are humans.
Yeah, that's possible. But think what's great about this question? There is a concept of locus of control. That's whether I decide things or they decide for me. If I have internal locus of control, then there are things that I want. If I have external, then there are things that I must. And you can see it, literally, you can see it in the way people speak, where it's located. If they say, I must a lot, then it's more convenient for them for somebody else to decide. That's okay. If they say, I want, that's a different story. And to be honest, we want to do everything. It's not like we need to do death and taxes. Taxes is also an option. If you don't pay them, well, you go to jail and you might find some good idea on how to pick up the soap so that you're all okay with this. But anyway, it's a choice. You can pay taxes and don't have this risk, or you can don't pay them and don't have this risk. It's always a choice. Only dying is not an option. Second thing, so this thing doesn't allow, it's like internal, what we would do differently. Because if you do another sprint, or live another day, or whatever, people around you will do things that you don't expect, that you don't want, that you would really don't want them to do. Things that you think they're doing just to damage you. And you have no control of it whatsoever. That's the stoic part of me. Things just are. That's the point. But what matters is your reaction to things. So if you had this director coming over, or the stakeholder doing this, or the team doing that or that, they will do these things. But what if your reaction, previous one, didn't work? What would you do differently the next time? That's all it matters. That's continuous improvement. In the question, and why continuous improvement is important? Tell me, is life and business a marathon or a sprint? Who goes for marathon? Okay, who goes for sprint? Okay, some people are not decided. That's a good, because it's neither. Life and business is a process. It's not a finite game. Sprint and marathon are finite games, like chess. You can win them, you can finish them. Life and business are infinite games, which means the only thing you can impact is when and how you will drop out of it. That's sad, but it's true. Every business will that we work in around in foreseeable future will be out of market or bought out by somebody or merged with somebody or whatever, but will stop existing. That will happen, and the way it happens, and from on what position is what you can influence. That's what you can change. Well, the same goes for dying. Every one of us can die young and lonely. That's an option. But it's just an option, it's just a decision. Okay, what do we do to drop out of this game in a better way? Really, it's like the most powerful question you can ask yourself or your team. The growth that you get is fantastic. And so Agile, not only about development, not really that visible, and Agile should be Agile tool. And I made it just in time.
No, you have 10 minutes if you want, but yeah.
Yeah, do you have any questions?
Yeah, could you go back one slide?
Yeah.
Can I ask you about your biography, your personality? You have been also in the beginning speaking about your beginnings, Laus's Scrum Master, but then 2 years after this, how long is it altogether? Your
Agile,
career?
I think about 10 years. 8 to 10. Well, it's hard to say where is the border, because I was interested. First, I was always interested in psychology and philosophy. Then company went agile, so I got the certificate and became a smartass, which was wrong. Then years later, I became a coach and got some humility in me, which is like the best thing you can grow as a mindset. And which is why I tell you a lot about things that I do wrong. I'm really happy about them and having possibility to share it. Before that, I was a developer, troubleshooter. Before that, I dropped out of college, so it should make me as good as Steve Jobs, I hope. Or maybe not, he died young. So that, like 15 years total. And before that, I had both Atari and Commodore, so nobody kicked me in the playing field outside after school. Because, you know, there were fractions. I don't know about Austria, but in Poland there was a Commodore fraction and Atari fraction. I was lucky to have both, so always in computers. Does it answer the question? Okay. Anything else?
So you told us a lot about Agile, the Agile mindset, and in this way, I completely agree with you. But it would be very interesting because you are working in this way, you live this way, but as you mentioned at the start, the customer isn't in this way at the moment, or maybe it will be in the future. So this means, it's some kind of Sisyphus work you're doing because.
Yeah, it's a long run.
Yeah.
It's the popular mistake that people make, and I made it many times as well. So, yeah, we are agile. You need to come to this meeting because we are agile. Just recently, I figured out a solution that's actually quite good. Just forget the word agile. Don't say come to this meeting because we're agile because we do this. No, come to this meeting because we want to make sure that what we're making for you is what you really want. Because based on our experience, we know that things change, just like that. And it's okay, we are open to changing things. You know, you don't have to send, you don't have to write change requests, your client. You just come and talk to us. And it's fine. Really, forgetting the term agile whatsoever. Well, you might use it every now and then to find a conference like this. But when talking to your teams, to your organization, to your client, just forget the word agile. And then suddenly things get way easier. When talking to your team about why should we go to the daily stand-up? Well, simply, I get it all the time. Well, not because it's agile or Scrum, Kanban, whatever. Well, we want to be aligned, just like this. And maybe somebody needs help. Well, and if you can do it as a team without this meeting, I'm fine. Okay, if you're aligned, no problem. The only thing that I would enforce would be retrospective, always, but that just means, but also, again, explaining what's the point of it, not because agile. And really, dropping this word. And suddenly you, well, myself, I had to start thinking like, yeah, okay, so how do I phrase to the client, why do we need reviews? You know, it's not that easy for the first time. Because you assume you're this sixth monkey and you do reviews because that's the way it is. And then, well, when you have to explain to the customer that's not agile at all, what's the point of it, just don't use word agile. Based on experience here, we know that things change. You might want to come. And if they don't come, and they won't come for the first time or the second, just send them the results. Or show them, yeah, this is what we did, this is what we did. And at one point, somebody will say, well, that's really not looking good. And say, okay, come join us, talk to us. It's actually easier when you stop using the word agile and using it as an excuse.
But it's the modern password.
Yeah.
Specific for the bigger companies, because they all want to do the agile transition. Stay in the same hierarchical structure, but want to do the agile transition. We are all doing it because we're getting paid for it.
For quite a few years, I was furious about it. Really, these idiots! What are they doing? I really couldn't go to sleep after meeting such client. But then I go to the idea. Well, there is this evolutionary fit to market, right? That companies have. As I said, if they survive the first 2 years, then apparently they're good enough to thrive on the market. Fine. So if they do this faking agile thing, and it works for them, then apparently it works for them. If they didn't go to this decision of getting even better yet, that's fine. Well, it will be a problem for them in a while, but that's fine. In 2007, November issue of Forbes magazine, there was a CEO of Nokia.
But may I just interrupt you two guys? You are actually now focusing on what is not agile. And now you're deepening this discussion. You can be successful in not being agile. But I think this conference, most of us here are coming for the opposite, for the real agile. And you have to have nuts to tell your client that what he wants is not really speaking, not understanding agile. And in the first place, as a consultant, you should teach him what actually is agile and ask him, do you really want to get there? Is that your aim?
Or you do the same like he mentioned, if the customer is happy with what he called agile, if it had the effect for him,
fake agile.
advanced.
Yeah, but I would not like to deepen what fake agile everything is, because I'm not into that business.
And nobody wants to be in this business. But if you get to talk to clients like this, there is this story that I started about Nokia. And 2007, November issue of Forbes magazine, you can Google it. Forbes.
2 minutes left.
2 minutes, okay. There's a CEO of Nokia with a tagline, 1 billion customer, can anybody beat the mobile king? That was 2 months after presentation of first iPhone. And the market value of Nokia back then was $100 billion, and that's pre-crisis dollars. So right now it would be like 130-ish, around this. And the market value of Nokia as of today, I checked it, is $27 billion. Because they weren't agile as an organization, they were not flexible enough. It's not about working in a funny way or so, it's about quickly reacting to market changes. And that's it. Well, that's not being agile, and that's Spartans. Spartans were great, were the best warriors you could get. But they were best in one particular way of fighting. And one day, at the Battle of Leuctra, other Greeks did disruptive innovation. And the way they did, they essentially destroyed all nobility of Sparta in one battle. This was 1 hour that ended the Sparta. Because they were too fixated, they weren't able to cope with changing reality. And that's the point. To be able to quickly and swiftly, like in an aligned way, as a whole organization, adapt to changing reality. Now, if the reality of the business is that they are okay with doing stupid things in an inefficient way, well, the market will verify it. And if they decide to do transition later, then it will be more costly to them, but you cannot force people or companies to be agile. But this Nokia story, really, I love it. It works wonders with CEOs, because most CEOs do imagine themselves on a Forbes cover sometime in the future, even in small start. Well, I imagine myself, and my company is 3 people. Well, my own. So that really rings a bell of imagination. Okay, so thank you.